My family has a little vacation home in Colorado, a place my parents bought because they're avid skiers. It's been in the family since before I was born, and though it's starting to show its age, it's been a part of us for decades. My dad's been doing maintenance on it for years, but it's slowly falling apart. Lately he talks about tearing it down and building something new, but I usually stay out of the decisions about it. This story takes place about 15 years ago when I was 8, and my brother Josh was 11. We were up there during a massive blizzard. The snowfall was crazy, and of course my brother and I had to go outside and play in it. The great thing about being at the cabin when we were kids was how much space we had. The property was massive, surrounded by woods on all sides. There was a dead-end road that sloped downhill, leading to a few more large properties. It was perfect for games like hide and seek, snowball fights, and anything that needed a lot of space. Josh and I decided to play a snowball fight, but with our own set of rules. We'd each pick a fort and build it anywhere we liked, as long as we told each other where we were setting up. We'd then make one huge snowball, the so-called jewel, and try to steal it from the other fort and bring it back to ours. Josh picked the neighboring property for his fort, as he often did. The owners were hardly ever there, and it was pretty much fair game for us to use. The property was empty 9 times out of 10, so we'd play there too. Josh would build his fort, and I'd set up mine, with a huge snowball between us that we had to steal. After Josh ran down the road to set up, I waited for him to blow the whistle to signal the start of the game. Time passed, and I waited for what felt like a long time, maybe 5 minutes, but then it was about 10 minutes, and I still hadn't heard the whistle. I figured I couldn't hear it from here, so I decided to go find him. I wasn't about to go through the woods in the blizzard, alone at 8 years old, so I walked down the road instead. As I approached the neighboring property, I could see through the trees because the woods were bare in winter. I cut through the trees to sneak onto the property, but when I looked around, Josh was nowhere in sight. I saw his fort, but he wasn't near it. I decided to approach his fort and grab the snowball. As I got closer, I suddenly heard a woman's voice calling out, "Excuse me, are you looking for your brother?" I turned toward the sound, and there was an older woman standing at the front door of the neighboring house. I shouted back that we were playing a game. She responded, "Your brother isn't here." Confused, I started walking closer to the front steps of the house. As I did, the woman's face became clearer, and to my 8-year-old eyes, she looked a lot older than she probably was. Just as I got closer, I noticed someone in the upstairs window, half of their face covered, presumably by a black beanie, with the lower part of their face hidden under the windowsill. I also saw a trail of footprints leading from the woods toward the front door. They looked like Josh's. The woman was smiling, but it was a creepy smile that made my heart drop. She waved for me to come inside to get out of the cold. I stopped in my tracks, and before I could think, I screamed, "Josh!" But there was no response. The woman's smile faded, and she seemed surprised that I'd called out. Then, I noticed something unsettling. The trail of footprints from the woods was doubled over, as if someone had walked out and then turned around and gone back. Just then, I heard heavy footsteps inside the house, like someone was coming down the stairs. I didn't wait to find out who it was. I turned and ran as fast as I could. The woman screamed something I couldn't understand as I bolted, but I didn't dare look back. As I raced out of the property and back onto the road, I could hear my dad whistling from up the hill. It was the same whistle he'd always used to call Josh and me home for dinner. I retraced my steps back to our driveway and when I arrived, my dad and Josh were already there, waiting for me. Josh started telling me that there had been people in the neighbor's house trying to get him to come inside. I said the exact same thing had happened to me. My dad, clearly concerned, grabbed something for protection and headed down to the house, with Josh and me waiting at the cabin with Mom. It felt like forever, but eventually, my dad came back. He said the front door was locked and no one was answering. So we went to another neighbor's house who knew the owners. They called them, and that's when things got even creepier. The owners weren't supposed to be there that weekend. Nobody was supposed to be in the house at all. My dad said that the cops were called and the house was investigated. We had to talk to one of the officers to describe the woman, but in the end, nothing came of it. The back door was unlocked and the house was checked, but there was no sign of anyone inside. From then on, my parents decided to take anything of value with them when they left, just in case. Josh and I steered clear of playing on that property, and we never really mentioned it again. The creepy feeling from that day lingered for a long time, and looking back, I'm grateful we never went inside that house. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this creepy story from our childhood. If you've had any strange encounters or unexplained experiences like this, feel free to share them in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more spine-tingling tales. Stay safe out there, and always trust your instincts, because sometimes things are just not what they seem. Until next time. And remember, not every house is empty.